Welcome to the paper of open source software in the subject of information technology. Friends, we have been discussing about Linux operating system. We have seen various software applications that run on Linux operating system. In this module, we will see some basic system administration tasks that can be done on Linux. As you are all aware, Linux is a server operating system. It does work for desktop as well, but more or less most of the servers they are using Linux as an operating system. So, there is lot of system administration configuration that can be done on Linux. For instance, we can start or stop various services, we can configure each and every service. A service can be a firewall, it can be a web server, it can be telnet server, news server and so on. So, each and every service can be configured separately. Again, there has to be some basic network level configuration which can be done on Linux operating system. So, in this module, we will get a brief overview of various run levels, how a server runs using various run levels. We will see how to configure services using the service command. There is another check config command through which we can enable disable service. We will see how to configure network, that is network card for the Linux operating system, and finally, we will go through some commands that can be used for network level configuration. So, let us begin our discussion with different run levels that are available with Linux operating system. Friends, as you know, when a system starts, it goes into a particular run level. It is the mode in which a Linux based system is running. Basically, run level is a very old concept, it since the Unix operating system. So, whenever we start our system, it by default enters into a run level. There are 7 different run levels starting from 0 up to 6, and we can configure our system in such a way that it can enter into any one of those run levels. So, let us see what are those 7 different run levels. As you can see on the screen, run level 0 indicates halt. So, when the system enters into run level 0, the system will be shut down. The other run level is run level 1, that is for single user mode. So, when the administrator does not want the server to go into a network mode, he wants to disable the incoming connections, he does not want multi-user environment, then he starts into a single user mode. I will give an example under what circumstances the administrator will use single user mode. Suppose the administrator forgets root password. Now, as you know, root password is very important, the super user password with which he can create users, he can modify different services. Let us take an example that the administrator forgets root password. So, what he will do? He will start the system in run level 1, that is single user mode. Now, if the Linux server starts in run level 1, it will not be accessible to other users, it is only for administrative tasks. So, in run level 1, the administrator or the root user can change his password. Another run level is run level 2, which is multi-user mode, but in that case it does not need the network configuration, it will not provide network interfaces. The one more run level is run level 3, which is multi-user with networking. So, this is the general run level when the system starts. If it is a server, it must start in run level 3, so that it is in multi-user mode and it has networking capabilities. So, multiple users can log into the system and they can interact with the server. Next run level, as you can see, it is run level 4, which is not used, it is customizable run level. So, network administrator can customize run level 4. The other run level is run level 5. It usually starts the system normally and it provides the GUI display manager. So, basically run level 5 is nothing, it is run level 3 plus some kind of display manager. So, if you want a graphical user interface, the system will start in run level 5. run level 5 is nothing, it is run level 3 plus display manager. So, it is a multi-user environment with networking capabilities plus a graphical user interface. And the last run level, that is run level 6, it is used for reboot. So, when we want to reboot the system will enter into run level 6 mode. So, these are the different run levels. Now, when we talk of service, it can be a web server, it can be a telnet server, FTP server, they are all different services. Let us take an example of web server. So, web server has the service HTTPD, HTTP daemon. As soon as the system starts, the service will start and it will keep on running till the system shuts down. Now, this service has again run levels 0 to 6. So, if I want HTTP in a single user mode, I will make it accordingly, so that it goes into single user run level. If I want HTTP into multi user mode, I will select the run level say 3, so that HTTP can go into multi level mode. So, each service can also be configured such that it has different run levels. As you know, the system itself has run levels, there are 0 to 6, that is 7 run levels, and each service is also configured for different run levels. So, there is a command chkconfig through which we can query run levels, we can either enable or disable the service, and we can find out or modify the run level for a particular service. So, let us see the chkconfig command. As you can see on the screen, the command entered here is chkconfig --list. So, this chkconfig command will list different services. You can see on the black screen there are different services, and for each service there are different run levels. For example, let us take the last one HTTPD, that is the web server. Web server, the run level 0 is off, 1 is off, 2 is off, 3 is on, 4 is off, 5 is on and 6 is off. So, if we interpret this, we can say HTTPD, that is the web server, is running with run levels 3 and 5 on. So, it is running in multi-user mode with support of display manager. As you can see in the screen, there are various services. Above HTTPD is ZynetD. Some basic services like Telnet, they are part of Zynet services, and there are many more services, and for each service there are different run levels. Either the service is off or it is on for particular run level. You must also see there is IP tables service, and it is on for different run levels. It is off for 0, 1 and it is on for rest of the run levels except 6. This IP tables is a firewall. So, in Linux, particularly Red Hat Linux, IP tables is the command that is used for firewalls. So, the chkconfig command, it is used to either set up or configure run levels, it can change different run levels, we can view run levels through this chkconfig command. And as you can see, it displays the list of services and whether it is enabled or disabled. When we say off, it is disabled, when we say on, it is enabled. So, we can query what service is enabled for a particular run level or it is disabled for another run level. Further, if we want to find out a particular service, now as you have seen, the chkconfig will list various services. I am interested only in a single service. As we have seen, I am interested in HTTPD service, I do not want to see rest of the services. So, I can pipe the output to grep command. As you can see on the screen, the chkconfig command, we are using pipe symbol and the output is piped to the grep command. So, the output will be a single line output. You can see the output is again the same. Here it is off for all run levels. Now, what I am doing is, in subsequent command, I am enabling chkconfig --level 35 HTTPD on. So, when I say on means I am enabling the HTTPD service for run levels 3 and 5. This 35, it is 3 and 5. So, this command will help to enable the HTTPD service for run levels 3 and 5. Again, if I issue this list command and I pipe to the grep HTTPD command, it will display the single line, the configuration of HTTPD. You can see over here for the third run level it is on, and for the fifth run level it is on. For rest of the levels it will be off. So, chk config command can be used to enable or disable particular service for particular run levels. Here you must note that we are either enabling or disabling. We are not starting or stopping a service. To start or stop a service is different from enabling and disabling a service. When the system starts, usually the services also start with the system. So, booting of the system and starting of services, they go together. Now, if I want to enable a service, it means when the system will start, the service has to start automatically, and disabling means the service will not start, but the system will boot on. And while the system is running and if the service is running, I can stop that particular service or I can restart or start a particular service. So, there is another command, that is service command, through which we can either stop, start or restart a particular service. This service command is used in traditional Unix and Linux operating systems. Nowadays, it has been replaced by another command, systemctl, which supports the systemd booting process. As we have discussed in previous modules, booting of Linux system can be either through init kind of sequence, init is a traditional sequence, or it can be through systemd sequence. In systemd, all the services they start together. In init, the services start in sequence mode one by one. So, whether it is init kind of booting of system or it is systemd, the run levels can be configured and the services can also be configured. Let us move ahead. The service command, as I have said, it can be used to start, stop a particular service. The syntax of command is something like service. We give the script name, the service that we want to start, and we can enter a command along with the options. So, you can see the example service HTTPD start. Now, if the web server is not running, we can issue this command and we can start the web server. Similarly, we can stop the web server with the command service HTTPD stop. And suppose if I have modified the configuration of HTTPD, that is the web server, I have modified its config file, then I can restart the service to implement those modifications. So, the command will be service HTTPD restart, it will restart the service with the new modifications that will come into effect. Now, you must note that I have used the sudo command because most of the services needs root level privileges or super user privileges. A normal user may not be able to configure services or may not be able to start or stop services. That is why sudo command is required to either start or stop various services. Friends, in previous module, we have already discussed the difference between su and sudo command. It is always advisable to use sudo command rather than su command, because su will make you a root user and whatever commands you issue will be in the root privileges, whereas sudo command is a bit restricted mode command, and for each command you can enter sudo and the administrative commands, so that we do not go into unnecessary misconfigurations. So, as a preventive measure, it is always required that we use sudo rather than the su command. Let us see another example. The service command can also be used to query status. We can query status of different services. For example, the command will be service status all. It is service double dash status dash all. So, this command, the output will list all the services that are running. It will display whether the service is running or it is stopped. The other way of knowing whether a service is running or not is service. We will provide the script name. Over here it is IP tables and status. So, in this example, it will give status of this single service. If I do not want the status of all services, I can particularly select a service, say for example, IP tables is a service and I want to check whether IP tables is running or it is not running. So, this is another way of querying the status of any service. Few other examples. We have already discussed the service command. There is equivalent systemctl command. So, nowadays modern Linux operating system, they have systemctl command. We can use systemctl, more or less the syntax is same. We can use systemctl start HTTPD, systemctl stop HTTPD or systemctl restart HTTPD. You can see the service names, that is the script names are same, with a minor difference in this systemctl command and its arguments. So, those systems that use systemd as boot process, we use systemctl to start or stop different services. Friends, we have already seen IP tables is a service that can be used to configure firewall. If you stop IP tables, the firewall will stop. We can also add rules for firewall. We can add particular port numbers to allow incoming connection. We can also deny connections through the IP tables command. Now, let us see few more examples of IP tables. Over here, as you can see, the sudo service IP tables status will list the status of IP table, whether it is on or off. I can stop firewall using the command sudo service IP table stop. So, the firewall will stop. I can also enable or disable firewall using the chkconfig command. So, if I say chkconfig IP tables off, it means the firewall will be disabled. Now, these are the traditional ways. Most of the books, if you are looking through old books, you will find these commands, but in the newer versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux and its distributions, the command is replaced by service firewall d stop. So, instead of IP tables, there is an alternate firewall d daemon. We can either stop, start or enable, disable the firewall daemon using systemctl command or using the service command. So, nowadays IP tables is replaced by the firewall d command if you are using a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 or later version. Similarly, in Ubuntu, instead of IP tables, there is a UFW command. UFW is sort of wrapper on the IP tables command. UFW means uncomplicated firewall. So, in Ubuntu, instead of using IP tables, we generally use UFW enable, or we can query the status using sudo UFW status. So, Ubuntu based distributions, that is Debian based distributions, they prefer UFW rather than the IP tables command. Few more examples are given in the extra reading notes. Now, let us come to the network configuration part. As you have seen, the services, they require a network card and a properly configured network card that accepts network packets. So, if it is a server, there may be multiple network cards. If it is a laptop, again there is a wired network card, there is a wireless LAN adapter. If it is a desktop system, generally we have a single network card. Usually Ethernet is used in India. In most of the labs, most of the systems, we use Ethernet as the network device. If there is a server, we have multiple Ethernet cards, or there may be some other technology along with the Ethernet technology. Now, the first thing is we want to get the details. If you want to fetch details of network related configurations, the command is ifconfig. In Windows based system it is ipconfig, in Linux it is ifconfig. So, when we enter ifconfig command, it will display the configuration of different network cards. Now, let us look at the screen. In this screenshot, ifconfig command is issued. You can see there is Ethernet ETH0, there is a loopback address, there is wireless LAN. So, for each network interface device, there are different configurations that are listed on right hand side. Here you can see ETH0, hardware address is given, and there are few other statistics, receiving, transmission, all these statistics are shown for each device. In ETH0 you can see there is MTU 1500. So, this is maximum transfer unit, for Ethernet it is generally 1500. Here IP address is not configured. So, it is not displaying the IP address, whereas in WLAN, the wireless LAN interface, you can see there is hardware address, there is INET 6 address. So, that is IPv6 address, some sort of transmission and receiving has also taken place. There is a broadcast address, there is IP address 192.168.3.62, and there is the masking address, subnet mask address. So, all these details for each card will be visible when we enter the ifconfig command. If I specifically want the Ethernet details, I will enter the command ifconfig ETH0. So, instead of showing the rest of the details, it will show only the Ethernet configurations. So, you can see for different cards we have different configuration. Now, this configuration can be viewed by any user. It is not required that only the root user will issue this command. Whoever is the user, he can try to find the details of different configurations, and it also shows different statistics. Now, you might be aware that hardware address is embedded in the hardware, whereas IP address is a logical address. So, there must be some file in hard disk where the IP addresses are stored. So, if I want to configure IP address, there are three different ways. I can either use the GUI provided by my Genome or KDE interface. For Genome there is a different GUI, KDE there is different GUI. I can also configure the IP address through command based GUI, or I can modify that particular file in which the IP addresses are stored. Usually network admin prefer to modify the files directly. Rather than configuring using GUI, network admin can easily operate through command prompt and he can modify those files. He can restart the network service so that the changes will be made effective. Now, let us see how these modifications can be done. As you can see in the screen, the command system config network will give this kind of GUI. It does not require mouse, simple tab keys and entering of the IP addresses will help you to configure the network. This is a Cursys kind of GUI. So, it is not provided by the Genome or KDE environment. It can be seen on the command prompt, and we can give details whether we want to provide a DHCP enabled address or we want to provide a static IP. If we are using a client for networking purpose, if it is a dumb client, then we generally prefer DHCP. As you have seen in railway reservation, there are dumb terminals, or if there is a thin client system, that will be dumb terminal. So, in those circumstances we enable DHCP, but if it is a server, in most of the cases we provide static IP. So, this is one way of configuring the network. This is basic requirement. Any computer, if we want to enable internet, then we have to provide these many configurations. We have to provide the static IP. Over here it is a private IP. We provide network mask, the gateway and DNS servers. Let us see one more configuration. Now, this is the file in which IP addresses are stored. As I said, in etc directory there is a file ifcfg eth0. So, for each network interface there will be separate file. If I want to configure the Ethernet card, I will open this file and I will try to modify such that those modifications come into effect. Over here you can see the IP address is given 192.168.200.41. If I want to change the IP address, I will simply modify this single line. Network mask, gateway, all these things are also given in this file. So, this is another way of modifying or giving the IP addresses. Two things that I want to show over here, there is boot proto is none. So, this is static address. If the boot proto is DHCP, then we say it is DHCP enabled client system. We have also provided the name of the system in this file. Few things can be optional. So, it does not require to enter all these details. And the last line user CTL is equal to no. This indicates whether the user will be able to modify this file or not. User control is no, that means ordinary user cannot modify this file, only the root, that is the super user, can make changes to the file. So, this is how we can modify the IP address by modifying this particular file. I would request the users, you browse through this directory. Within the etc directory there is network scripts. You go through that directory and try to find out different files that can be configured. As I said earlier, different systems will have different kind of files. If it is a laptop, there will be different set of files. If there is a server with 2 network cards or more number of network cards, there will be a different kind of file. So, I would encourage you, you go through the various files and try to identify the IP addresses, how they are stored in those files. Let us go through some other commands. Now, when we are talking about networking, there are commands like if up, if down. We can enable or disable the network card. So, up and down is to enable or disable the network card. This requires root privileges. Now, if I want to check connectivity with another interface, if I want to check connectivity with other system, I will use ping command. Ping checks whether my system is connected to some other system using the IP address. ARP command is for address resolution protocol. It will display the binding of my hardware address and IP address. It will also display cache. So, if my system is connected to various other systems, it will give a list of IP address and hardware address for all those systems. NSLOOKUP is a command to resolve the domain name. So, for a particular domain name, what will be the IP address? That kind of resolution can be done by NSLOOKUP command. dig command will give some more details of domain name. So, dig is an extension of NSLOOKUP. It will also show different resource records for a particular domain name system. Traceroute will identify the intermediate routers between any two systems. It will give the entire route of the packet that is being sent from one system to another. Netstat command will give the statistics of the connections that are on in my system. Host command will give the host name and other relevant details. Route command will give the routing information. The routing table or the details related to routing will be displayed by the root command. Most of these commands will not require root administrative privileges. Only the if up and if down command may require admin privileges. if you want to enable or disable the network interfaces. So, these are few primary network related commands that can be used to configure a system and test whether your system is connected to different systems, whether it can resolve domain name and so on. So, I would encourage all of you, you try all these commands. Once your system is live in the network, you can test the connectivity, you can test whether domain name is being resolved or not through all these commands. In fact, Linux has lot of commands. We will not go into much detail because each service in itself requires many configuration. For example, HTTP service has lot of configurations, whether you want to configure virtual directory, whether you want to configure user directory, whether I want to configure HTTPS, that is a secure variant of HTTP. So, for those I have to create digital signatures, I have to upload certificates. If I want to configure HTTP for more number of users, maybe 1000 of users, I have to configure the npm module. Now, this is about HTTP. Similarly, there are various different services. Discussing each service in detail is out of scope. So, I leave it to the users. Please explore each and every service in detail, but whatever commands we have studied in this module, they are the building blocks for most of the services. So, let us summarize what we have studied in this module. We started with the introduction of run level, then we discussed how to start and stop services using the service command. We also discussed how to enable or disable service using the chk config command. We have seen how to configure the network interface, how to assign IP address, how to make a client DHCP enabled, and finally, we went through certain commands that can be helpful for networking. So, friends, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you have a laptop, try to connect to different networks, try to configure IP address so that your network and the laptop can latch together, try to send ping packets to some other system, and I hope you will have fun with these commands. So, thank you so much, have a good day.